It's a little messy. You're either gonna have a dry transmission or a dry front axle. You see what I mean? That one's a little bit of a pain to get to. Hey everyone, Mike here, Rusty Garage and Homestead. Welcome back to the channel. Today's video, we're gonna be doing a 100-hour service on our Polaris Ranger 1000 XP. So if you're curious on what kind of oil you need to use or how much oil, what tools you need, or just how to do it, this video is for you. So let's go to the shop. All right, everyone, so we have a 100-hour service. That does involve the engine oil, the front differential, and the transmission fluid. Now, I always run the Polaris AGL for the transmission and the demand drive fluid stuff for the front diff. I do also keep a little bit of premix antifreeze on just in case I need to top it off. But those two, I always for sure run Polaris brand oil. I always run Polaris brand oil also in the engine. That's probably the one of the three that I think you could use another oil if you wanted to. But I like the PS4 kit. As soon as I use it off the shelf, I buy another one and replace it. So I always have one on the shelf ready to go whenever I need to do a service. But if you're ever curious of what is in the PS4 kit, let me show you real quick. So you do have a Polaris oil filter, brand new filter. It comes with 2 quarts of the 2050, and then it's got a 16 ounce jug also for it. And then you get a fill plug, you get a drain plug seal for that. They don't do no good leaving it in here. They send you one, go ahead and replace it. And normally they send it with a paper funnel. This one did not come with one. They must have run out. Anyways, that's in the PS4 kit. All the oil you need, your seals, your oil filter. I'll have links to any of this stuff for Amazon links to them down in the description. That's where I always pick it up. That's the cheapest place I found it. Dealers charge quite a bit more for some of this oil than you can get it on Amazon. And if anybody else knows a better place besides Amazon to get it, go ahead and leave a comment because I'm always up to save a buck. Now on the AGL fluid, I do buy it by the gallon because it is cheaper to buy it by the gallon than it is by the quart. Now the transmission holds 41 ounces, I believe, of the AGL fluid, so you can get 3 services out of that 1 gallon. So to me, it just makes sense to buy it like that. The demand drive, that one takes not even 7 ounces of oil for the front diff, so your 1 quart will also last quite a bit for that. Okay, some of the other things you need are a 6mm Allen and a 8mm Allen wrench. Now the 8mm Allen is used for the fill plug on the transmission and the drain plug on the transmission. It is also used for the fill plug on the front diff and the drain plug on the front diff. The only oddball that they did was the 6mm Allen on the oil drain pan plug. Why they couldn't have went ahead and put it as a 8mm just to make it the same wrench for everything, I don't know. Wish they would have. That kind of would have made things a little bit nicer. Now some people also have a right ratio cup, or it's one of those cups that people use to mix up 2-stroke oil. It gives you things like that, but it's also got a fluid ounce measuring scale on it. That's not needed for this, and I'll show you why. Okay, you can see, here's the AGL, takes 41 ounces. Here's your torques, 10 to 14 on the fill, 10 to 14 on the drain. Your demand drive for your front end takes 6.8 ounces. It's 8 to 10 on the fill and 11 on the drain. But the reason I say you don't really necessarily need to worry about these right here is because here's on your transmission, it says maintain the fluid level at the bottom of the fill plug hole. Step over here to the front gear case, maintain the oil level even with the bottom threads of the fill plug hole. So essentially, you're not really gonna overfill it. Fill it up to the bottom of the fill plug and call it good. And if anybody else out there was wondering, here are your 100-hour services and inspections. But every 100 hours, you have the engine oil and filter, you have the front gear case, and the transmission. That's every 100 hours. You also got some more inspections. There's another page full of stuff on there. But those are the 3 that we do every 100 hours. And the service is actually really simple. 8mm and a 6mm, a drain plug, a funnel, and your oils. That is literally all you need, and it's not hard to do. The front diff is kind of the worst one to get to the plugs. It's not that awful, but it's the worst one. Also, just a little bit of advice on on the transmission and the front diff. Go ahead and break your fill plug loose first, just to make sure it comes loose. And the reason is because if you open your drain plug and you drain all your oil out, and then you go to your fill plug and you end up stripping it out or breaking it, now you've got either the transmission or the front diff that doesn't have any oil in it and you don't have a way of getting oil in it. So that's just a best practice to make sure that you can put oil back into something if you drain it out. Because whether you're going to fix it yourself or you got to load it up on a shop, you're either going to have a dry transmission or a dry front axle. So that's just a little tip to maybe keep you out of a bind one of these days. Also, at the end of this video, I will show you how to reset your service hours on the Polaris Ranger, so you can just get a reminder whenever it's due. It'll pop up a little wrench icon just to remind you it's time to change oil. So let me get all this stuff cleared off. We'll get this thing picked up on the lift, and I'll show you how easy it is to change oil on this thing. As far as tools go, I've got these handheld 6mm, 8mm. Also got the T-handles. Just depends what I'm doing. I may end up using this on a drain plug and putting a little pipe on it just to get me a little more leverage on it. But the T-handles actually work pretty good as long as you got the Allen bit over on the side of them. All right, everyone, we're back here at the back of the machine. If you come right up here to this hole, that is the 8mm drain plug for the transmission. Come a little bit more forward, there's your 6mm drain plug for your engine. So again, there's rear tires, transmission's here, engine oil's here. Now we're up here at the front end, front diff. If you follow this right on in through here, you've got 2 bolts here. There's your 8mm drain plug for your front diff. Now the fill plug to this, let's see if I can poke you guys up in here. You see that? Fill plug is right there. That one's the most pain to get to, but it's honestly, it's not that bad. And the fill plug for the transmission is right here at the very rear of the machine. That's your 8mm fill plug. So I'm gonna go ahead and crack loose the fill plug on the front diff and the transmission. And then once both of those are loose, I'll go ahead and I'll get the transmission drain plug pulled. Then we'll move up to the engine oil. Then we'll move up to the front diff. Okay, something I did learn a long time ago that was taught to me about this style of fill plug and drain plug is to whack that with a hammer a couple times before you try to break it loose. I've always done that, and I really very, very seldom ever have any issues getting one of those off. Okay, let's see if we can get this broke loose. Okay, it is loose. Let's move to the drain plug. Same deal on the transmission drain plug. That hammer's a little too big. So the engine oil's done. Let me find a smaller hammer and see if I can tap on that. Okay, I didn't, but I found a bearing punch. This will work just fine. Okay, so again, there's your 8mm. Let's get it broke loose. It is loose. Now let me go ahead and get the oil drain pan up here. Now once I get this pulled out, I'm gonna check it. This is a magnetic plug, so I'm gonna check it. If there's some fines on it, that's okay. You just don't want to see any big chunks. You can see, I'm not really seeing any big chunks. I'm gonna feel through it. It's just real light glittery stuff. But check your plug and O-rings. Let me go check my other shop because I believe I have some O-rings over there for this. Now while that's draining, I'm also going to go ahead and crack open the fill plug a little bit more after I wipe my fingers off. Now I'm just cracking loose the fill plug some more just to make sure it's not airlocking itself. But I don't want to take the plug out all the way just yet, just because I don't want anything to fall in there. Okay, it is not airlocked. I'm going to put the fill plug back in until I'm ready for it. We're just going to let that sit there and drip. And I'm going to go find an O-ring. Okay, so we are good on the O-ring and the drain plug now. So I'm going to go ahead and just take a clean rag and wipe around the drain plug. Okay. New O-ring. There's the magnetic plug. Go ahead and get it stuck back up in there. And we'll move up to the engine. You guys seen the torque of it, what it was earlier in the video. But if I remember, I'll throw it up on the screen. Okay, there's that one. Let's move forward to the engine oil plug, drain plug. All right, now remember, this is a 6mm Allen. This is not a magnetic plug. Get it out of there and let the oil drain, but we will replace this copper seal. Make sure it comes off. Don't leave it up on there. Now again, if you need this seal by itself, that is the Polaris part number for it. So they send it to you, go ahead and replace it, and don't worry about it. I do need to get an IBC tote set up for waste oil. We go through a lot of oil here on this property. I normally keep all my old jugs because we use that when we're burning brush piles. We use the old engine oil. So we're down to a drip on that. Let it drip here a few more minutes. Then we'll get the drain plug back installed. Okay, we're good enough, I think. Get all that excess off of there. We do have a new seal put on here. So let's go ahead and get this thing put on, tightened up, and we'll wipe it off one more time. All right, let's go ahead and move up to the front diff, and we can put our 6mm Allen away because we don't need it anymore. Okay, I actually forgot to hit the record button. What I've done up here on the front, I'm fixing to tap on the fill plug since we haven't done that yet, and I'll tap on the drain plug, but I had to lower the machine quite a bit because it was way too high for me to get to. You see what I mean? That one's a little bit of a pain to get to. Let me see if I can move you all to a spot you can see where I can actually get in there and do some work. Okay, like I said, this one is a little bit of a booger to get to. I had to go find another Allen's that was a little bit longer out to here. Now I'm going to put a pipe on here just to try to get that thing broke loose. I do not like using ball end Allen's on fill plugs and stuff like that, but I think that's about all I got right now. Okay, that thing is broke loose. Perfect. Okay, let's pick the machine back up and let's get the drain plug opened up. Okay, again, let's give this a couple taps. Let me get the oil pan in place and we'll get that thing broke loose. Now remember, that's 8mm also. This is also going to be a metallic or a magnetic drain plug, so again, check for anything coarse, which that one don't look bad. A few fines on it. See that? But nothing concerning. I'm just loosening up on the fill plug just to make sure we're not airbound, airlocked. We're not. This front end doesn't hold that much fluid. Almost 7 ounces, 6.8. We're down to a drip. I'm going to take a rag and wipe all this dirt and stuff that I can see at the bottom of the fill plug. Get it out of there. Now I've got the fill plug cleaned up, new O-ring on it. We'll get this back installed. So let's snug it down to spec. Okay, we'll get the rest of this oil and stuff wiped off of here. Everything's drained. Let's move the oil drain pan, lower this thing down, and start getting some oil put in this thing. So the way I put oil in the front diff and in the transmission, got several of these little pumps I use. I spray brake clean through them just to make sure they're clean. This still had a little bit of the purple fluid, so I know that was AGL was the last time I used this one. So I don't want to cross-contaminate any oils from the transmission to the front axle. So we'll get this all cleaned up, wiped down, and I'll get you guys set up in place where we can pull the fill plug out all the way, and we'll get this thing pumped full of oil. These, if I remember, I'll go ahead and leave links to these. I picked these up on Amazon. I use these for my first gen, putting oil in that manual transmission because there's not a lot of room between the fill plug and the tunnel there, and I use them for this machine all the time. Okay, again, we're using this demand drive fluid for the front diff on these Polarises. Go ahead and get the fill plug pulled out. That'll give you a lot of extra room to have a camera up here on the front end of these things. Okay, fill plug's pulled out. Just gonna set it over to the side. Now it does have an O-ring. There's no magnet or anything on that, but we'll get that cleaned up before we put it back in. So the threads on this bottle and threads on this are completely different. That won't work, so all I'm gonna do is poke that down in there. It's not gonna use this whole cord anyways, but I'm gonna get this nozzle stuck up in here and we'll start pumping oil. Remember, we're going to fill it till it's even with the bottom of the threads in there. And we are full. Okay, let that settle for a second. And what I do with this when I get done with it, I pull it out, let whatever's going to drain out. Drain back out, you can see it kind of come back through that hose. Then when that stops, I'll just pump whatever I can back in here. Now I'll spray this back off with brake clean whenever we move to the back for the transmission. So let me get this taken care of and we'll get the fill plug put back in. It's a little messy. Okay, hopefully you guys can see the oil level. It is right at the bottom of the threads. I can see it. I don't know how the camera's going to pick it up. And the fill plug has a new seal on it. We'll get it put in and tighten it up. So the front diff is done. That is the hardest one just because this fill plug's such a pain to get to. Okay, let's get it tight. See if the T-handle will get to it. With the CV shaft and the A-arms here, you don't get the greatest amount of room. Okay, that's tight. I'm gonna go ahead and spray a little brake clean up on that just to get all that oil off of it. Okay, that stuff will evaporate off. Let's jump back to the transmission. Okay, now that we're back here, this one's gonna take quite a few more pumps. Obviously there's 41 ounces back here versus the 6.8 ounces on the front diff. But let's get all this stuff cleaned up so we don't cross-contaminate any oil. Okay, I'd say that's good. Let's get the AGL. Let this dry out for just a second. We'll get the transmission full. I really do like these Tubbo towels. These aren't sponsored. I know I mentioned them in several videos. I wish they would sponsor me, but Tubbo towel, they don't even know who I am. I just really like the product. Okay, let's go ahead and get the fill plug out of this thing. Fill plug is non-magnetic either. Same deal, got an O-ring, need to replace it. I'm going to set my gallon jug of AGL right here, put the pump in the top of it, and put the nozzle down in it. Same deal on these Polaris jugs. This little pump will not thread onto this, so just kind of got to hold it in there. Do you all have any pump like this that you use on your machines, or do you use something totally different? Use a funnel? Leave a comment, let us know. I'm always up to try something different if it's better. There we go. Got that purple fluid pumping now. My little pump's leaking. Got oil going everywhere. These things are pretty cheap. They don't last forever. Had to replace them a few times. Looks like it's time for this one to get replaced now. Yep, it's full. Okay, you guys can see, hopefully. Pop you off of there. You guys can see that that oil is full up to the bottom of the threads. So the transmission's full. So since it's full, I've got the drain plug or the fill plug all cleaned up. I'm gonna again just wipe some of the dirt that's away from this. Go ahead and get this installed and torqued. And then we will work on getting the engine oil filter changed. So I did misspeak earlier. You need a filter wrench. That's the other tool besides a 6mm and an 8mm. Okay, let me spray that up, get it all clean. All right, we're almost done with this. Let's get this thing lowered down and get the bed lifted up so we can get the oil filter replaced. I'll show you where it's at, and then we'll get this thing filled up with oil, start it, reset the service hours, and we're gonna be done. I pumped way too much of that AGL in there. But best thing to do is let it continue to drain out till it gets flush with the bottom of the threads, so it's filled up to the correct level. All right, it is time to do the engine oil filter. I like to use pliers. I've got chain wrenches, sockets, pliers, strap wrenches, different things like that. This is a pair of channel locks. It's a small pair. It can go up to a decent size filters, but the Polaris filter is pretty small. This is pretty compact. There's not a lot of room where this is at, so this is my preferred pair to use. Now this is a little tight quarters. I'm going to check the air filter too on this service, but let me get a light. Okay, I got a light set up. The oil filter, get wedged up in here, is right here. Here's the top of the engine. Here's your inlet. Oil filter is right down there. See it? My hands are on it. I normally reach through from the bottom of this inlet underneath with my pliers to get to it. So let's go ahead and get this popped off. Okay, I got you guys set up in about the best place I can. There's my oil filter pliers right here. Just gonna get on it. There we go. It is broke loose. Oil filters do not need to be crazy tight. A lot of people tighten them up way too much. Okay, let's get this out of here, put it in the drain pan. Now I've got a clean grease rag. I'm just going to go ahead and wipe off the area where the filter goes to make sure nothing crazy is going on. And the new filter, I did already put some grease around the O-ring. So let's get this thing put on, tightened up, and get some oil put in this thing. A lot of times I do go ahead and reach down through here because I can get a little better grip on it. Okay, oil filter is on and tight. Let's get some oil put in this thing. Okay, now your fill plug is right up here, top of the engine. Go ahead and wipe some of this dust off. Just keep everything as clean as we can. We've got a clean funnel here. Let's get the oil put in it. The paper funnel that they normally include with the PS4 kit actually fits in there pretty decent. Okay, now that all that's in, pull the funnel out, put the fill plug back in, and the dipstick's on your side. So let's check the oil. Okay, the dipstick is located right here. It's got a little locking cap on it. Flip that up and the dipstick comes right out. And we are right above the 2 load marks, which makes sense because we haven't started this thing yet. So let's start it. We'll look around for leaks, make sure we ain't got nothing leaking, and then we'll reset the service hours. Okay, well, we ran it. I checked for leaks. There wasn't no leaks. And I rechecked the oil. Oil was right in between the 2 marks at that point. So one of the last things we need to do is just go ahead and check the air filter, which I'm assuming it's going to be, no, it's actually not as bad as I was thinking it was going to be. Now you see you've got these 5 clips right up here, 3 on top, 2 on the sides, and then the bottom of it just pokes down in. The air filter really doesn't look that bad, so I'm not going to mess with it just yet. Okay. Make sure your little hooks are out of the way so this thing will close properly. Okay, let me show you how to reset the service hours. Okay, the service hours are pretty simple. Turn the machine on. See, we've got the wrench and the hour meter flashing. So what you want to do is press and hold the mode button. Bring up options. You can scroll through. Service hours. You can change this. Select mode to select it. You can change it to 5, all the way up to 100. Or you can turn it off, which I don't recommend, but we're gonna leave it at 100. Hit mode again, and it's reset. So now, when we go through our service hours, we're showing 100 service hours left. This will count down. Once it gets down close to 0, that wrench and that hourglass will start flashing. So the last step, something I always do, is I'll write down the mileage and I'll write down the hours, which are here, and I'll write down what I did in the book. Let me show you that real quick. Okay, now the very last thing you should do involves your service manual. At the back of your service manual, you're going to find some pages here for your maintenance log. You can see the date, miles, hours, who did it, and what you did to it. I'm going to quit putting engine oil, front diff, trans, sometimes says air filter, sometimes it says grease. I'm just going to start putting 100H next to it, because all of that takes up all that space, that's a 100-hour service. So we did a 100-hour service today. The date is November 9th of 24. The miles on it was 3121, and the hours was 643, and myself did it. So that's just good to keep up with, so you know kind of when you did it. Looks like the last 2 Mays is when I did it. I made it all the way to November this year, which I did go a little bit over. First service was the 25-hour service, and then roughly 100 hours or so everyone after that. All right, everyone, it's as simple as that. This wasn't a hard project. You've seen it only takes a handful of pretty common tools to be able to service one of these things. Most people, I think, could probably service one of these in a half hour, no more than an hour, in their driveway, in their garage, with just basic tools. You don't have to have a lift to do this. You can drive it up on ramps, or you can leave it straight on the ground. But all you really need is an 8mm Allen, 6mm Allen, and an oil filter wrench. The funnel, if you don't need a funnel, you don't have to have that. If you really don't want to use a drain pan and make a mess, you can go ahead and do that. But everyone, I really hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you found some of the information helpful and useful. And if you've got one of these machines and you want to service it, you see, it's not that hard to do. But if you enjoyed the video, give the video a thumbs up. Consider subscribing to the channel if you're not already. We'll see you in the next one. Thanks.